Those are the three things, basically the three intervals that we're interested in. But just how far down can I produce oil, if you will? Because it's real important. It means a lot of money as far as in your bank account, right? If I can produce these lower zones, and if I run the calculations, they're actually looking fine across those same intervals. So I'd better work with that lower one, right? That better be part of my package that I'm interested in. And this is going to be interesting because this is going to lead to the next step in log interpretation. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is where it goes. If I can calculate water, I can calculate porosity. Because of the mathematical calculations that we have in determining perm from the logs, I ought to be able to get to productivity, right? Because if I can determine perm, then I ought to be able to get to an idea how much fluid in terms of a number it will get to, in terms of water and oil. And just for a presentation, I'll end up with things that look like this based on those water saturations and porosities. And these are values that you just read directly off of the log going through that gyration. Those are those same zones. Green being oil, blue being water. Remember, those where the perfs were. That would be the oil number, if you will. That would be the water number in terms of barrels per day. Just taking the water saturation, porosity numbers, and thickness, and then just reading those values. Okay, if I really trust what I've done, I go to this step, then I expect what? A 30 barrel a day well? It makes about 20 barrels of water. If everything was done correctly, that's where I should be, right? Because I'm not reinventing the wheel. These are existing formulas. All I'm doing is plugging in the numbers that I think I've gotten to the best way. Well, this one just happened to get real lucky. The IP was 30 barrels a day, and it made 25 barrels of water. So probably everything I've done, I've got a lot of faith. If I'm going to do reserves on this well, be pretty confident that I'm right. Okay? Not very often that we're really right. Okay, so you can get to this point, and it's real simple now that there's computers. You push the button and it goes there, right? I've gotten all the values, so now I'm going to push the button. It's going to take me right here. Got data view. All I have to do is push the button again. Bam, there it is, and I print it and send it off. Okay, 10 minutes. That 10-minute thing again. You know, it's instant gratification everybody wants. There it is. Obviously, this doesn't mean anything if I've taken some false steps to get to here. This one is just a presentation. I'm really not doing much here. It's Chase Group out in Hugoton. It's interesting because if you haven't worked with Chase, you need to see these logs some, because if you look at the left side at the gamma ray, we talked about the gamma ray in pay zones. We want it to be left, okay, because shell means right, right? What's happening on the gamma ray here where you have good SP? It's all over the place, right? So these are radioactive zones, okay? And this is just classic for something in Hugoton. You can see what the calculations look like for water opposite those zones with high gamma ray, and in the depth track where all the perforations were. Of course, today, this is a fairly new well because of the low pressures, where you should have extremely high gas rates because there's no pressure. This one IP'd for 20 MCF. Got all those zones open and they're all pay, but there's no drive mechanism, right? Then you can be that guy. You can be the guy in the crowd that it's like old Jim and his little private drawer down there where he's got that piece of paper. You can be the only one that knows it till you retire and they go pull that out of yours. Now I had one more slide I wanted to show, because if you haven't seen this, everybody needs to see that well right there. That's in New Guinea. It's called the Antelope 2. It flowed at a rate of 705 million cubic feet a day. It's the new biggest gas well in the world, making 11,200 barrels of condensate with that. And I finally did a little more reading. That line they've got out there is a 4 3/4 inch choke. 4 3/4 inch. choke. But I thought this was pretty cool. I just happened to find these pictures yesterday. I'd seen them before. That's where you're sitting on top of the mountain. They're testing the well. But if you look back between that flare and the rig, you see all those water fountains spurting up? Looks like somebody's got a leak in their hose or something. And see how high they are? That's how much heat that thing is putting off. And they're trying to keep everything from melting back on the other side. If you look at it from a helicopter, this is a great picture because it's so hot it has changed the weather. Look at all the clouds behind it. That's what it should look like. And that's where everybody lives, in those buildings you see in front of it, because you're kind of in the jungle. And you see that flare out there. Now, why they decided they want to test it that long, I don't know, but that's fine. But the last picture here is interesting because if you look down here towards the bottom of this picture, there's the rig. Look at that building right there. What do you think that is? Can you read that? That's Schlumberger's logging skid. And there's all their logging tools right next to it sitting there on that stand out in the middle of the jungle. This is interesting to me because I'm in the jungle, but I have every logging tool in the world sitting out there on that one stand. Now that's special. Because I'll guarantee you there's a ton of money sitting on that one stand and they're just stacked up over there. And that's all I have.